The verdict was almost ready, and Lucrezia Borgia was not in the room where men were deciding what her body meant. She was 17 years old, living behind the restricted doors of the Convent of San Sisto. Elsewhere, two cardinals appointed by her father's government were preparing to announce that her 4-year marriage had never truly been completed. Her husband would be made to admit that he had failed as a man. Lucrezia would be officially declared a virgin, not because anyone had discovered a private truth beyond doubt, because the Borgia family needed her unmarried. No reliable contemporary account says courtiers stood around Lucrezia's wedding bed or counted acts of consummation. The documented reality was colder. Her marriage had once joined two powerful families. Now the alliance had become inconvenient, and the same church ruled by her father possessed the legal machinery to erase it. Her husband, Giovanni Sforza, had first insisted that the marriage had been consummated. Later, under pressure from his own relatives, he signed the opposite statement. The commission accepted that Lucrezia remained untouched. A public proclamation transformed that claim into political fact. The marriage vanished. The humiliation did not. For the next 5 centuries, Lucrezia would be remembered through accusations of incest, poisoning, seduction, and corruption. Most were born from hostile courts, angry men, and later storytellers. Yet the men who arranged her marriage, destroyed it, and traded her into another alliance, escaped the same kind of legend. So the real question is not whether the Vatican somehow made Lucrezia a virgin again. It is how a pope turned his daughter's private marital status into evidence, and why history punished her more fiercely than the men who controlled it. If you're drawn to the darker corners of history, subscribe to Grimmer History. We're on our way to 45,000 subscribers. To understand how a marriage could be erased, we first have to understand what marriage meant inside the ruling families of Renaissance Italy. For ordinary people, it could bind households and property. For princes, cardinals, and dukes, it was diplomacy written onto a human life. A bride carried a dowry, a family name, and the promise of military or political support. Her wedding was not simply a union between two people, it was a treaty with music. Lucrezia entered that system before she was old enough to control it. She was the daughter of Rodrigo Borgia, a powerful cardinal who became Pope Alexander VI in 1492. Alexander was not only the spiritual head of the Western Church, he was also a temporal ruler, surrounded by rival states, hostile dynasties, foreign armies, and ambitious relatives. Every marriage made by his children could strengthen or weaken his position. That made Lucrezia valuable. Before Alexander became pope, 2 possible Spanish marriages were considered for her and then abandoned. Better opportunities had appeared. Once her father wore the papal crown, Lucrezia was no longer merely the daughter of a cardinal. She was the daughter of a pope, and proximity to her could open doors throughout Italy. The Sforza family was one of the most powerful dynasties on the peninsula. Cardinal Ascanio Sforza, an influential churchman who had helped Alexander's rise, supported a match between Lucrezia and his kinsman Giovanni Sforza, the Lord of Pesaro. Giovanni was older, politically useful, and connected to Milan. Lucrezia was 13. Their contract was formally ratified in early 1493. Her dowry was fixed at 31,000 ducats, an enormous statement of value and obligation. That summer, Giovanni entered Rome ceremonially. Lucrezia watched his arrival from a palace loggia. The wedding took place inside the Vatican before cardinals, ambassadors, Roman nobles, and elite women. Gold brocade flashed beneath torchlight. Silver-gilt vessels and ceremonial gifts displayed the wealth of both families. Music, dancing, and a staged comedy carried the celebration deep into the night. Everything was public because the alliance needed witnesses. But there is an important line history must not cross. No reliable contemporary evidence shows witnesses entering the couple's bedchamber, inspecting sheets, or recording what happened between them. The wedding was witnessed. The marriage itself later became evidence. Those are not the same thing. For a time, the distinction did not matter. The Borgias wanted the Sforzas. The Sforzas wanted influence at the papal court. Lucrezia's marriage served its purpose. Then French armies crossed into Italy, alliances shifted, and the treaty written onto her life began to lose its value. The wedding had been magnificent. The danger began when the politics changed. The French invasion of 1494 shattered the balance among Italy's courts. Milan, Naples, Venice, Florence, and the Papal States recalculated their loyalties. A family that looked essential one year could become a liability the next. Alexander VI began moving away from the Sforza Alliance. The political future of the Borgias increasingly pointed toward Naples and France. Lucrezia's husband now stood in the way of marriages that could offer more. A dynastic bride could be exchanged only if the previous contract was broken. That was difficult. Christian marriage was supposed to be sacred and enduring. Alexander could not simply announce that Giovanni had become inconvenient. He needed a legal reason strong enough to make the union disappear. Canon law supplied one. Church law distinguished between a marriage that had been validly contracted and one that had also been consummated. A union judged never to have been completed could be dissolved or annulled through ecclesiastical procedure. The language was spiritual and legal. The motive could still be political. This was the machinery closing around Lucrezia, a father who controlled her future, a papal government capable of judging her marriage, cardinals who could turn family policy into legal findings, and a husband whose own relatives could pressure him to surrender. By early 1497, Giovanni understood that Rome had become dangerous for him. He abruptly fled the city for Pesaro. Later chroniclers claimed Lucrezia warned him about a plan against his life, but that story cannot be securely confirmed. What is certain is that he left while the Borgias were moving to end the marriage. The separation soon became visible. Lucrezia withdrew to San Sisto, a convent on the Appian Way. A contemporary letter reported that she departed without formally taking leave of her household. Behind convent walls, she was physically removed from the court, while men exchanged letters about her future. Couriers moved between Rome, Milan, Pesaro, and Ferrara. Wax seals closed diplomatic reports. Advisors debated the cost of resistance. The private question of whether husband and wife had shared a complete marriage became the subject of state correspondence. Giovanni fought back. He insisted that the marriage had been consummated many times. The annulment claim, he understood, threatened more than his position. It threatened his masculinity, his honor, and his authority as a ruler. If he accepted that he had been incapable of completing the marriage, the scandal would follow him long after the legal case ended. His Milanese relatives searched for a way out. Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, and the strongest secular protector Giovanni possessed, proposed a humiliating solution. According to a surviving diplomatic dispatch, Giovanni could prove his capacity with women before trustworthy witnesses and a papal legate in Milan. This was not the theatrical Vatican spectacle later shown in television dramas. No college of cardinals assembled to watch. But the documented proposal was degrading enough. Giovanni's body, like Lucrezia's, could be subjected to political verification. He refused. That refusal did not prove incapacity. It proved that the political trap had narrowed. If he submitted, he accepted public humiliation. If he resisted, he risked losing the support of Milan and confronting the Pope alone. Then Giovanni made the accusation that would poison Lucrezia's reputation for centuries. In anger, he claimed that Alexander wanted his daughter returned for an incestuous relationship. The accusation survives because an ambassador reported it. No independent evidence supports it. It was retaliation from a husband being pressed to declare himself impotent. Rome loved the story. The annulment was no longer only a legal struggle. It had become a war over shame, and Lucrezia, still secluded at San Sisto, was about to become the evidence both sides needed. The commission appointed to judge the marriage was headed by 2 cardinals. Its purpose was not to decide whether the alliance remained useful. That decision had already been made. Its purpose was to translate political necessity into church law. The case rested on non-consummation. For Alexander, the advantage was obvious. If the marriage had never been completed, Lucrezia could be declared legally free. She could marry again. A failed Sforza alliance could be replaced by a stronger one, without admitting that the papal family treated marriage as disposable diplomacy. For Giovanni, the claim was devastating. He had already said that the marriage was complete. To reverse himself meant signing away his own credibility. Yet the relatives he depended upon were no longer willing to defend him against the Pope. For Lucrezia, the proceeding turned absence into a form of captivity. She was not directing the case. Her father initiated it. Churchmen judged it. Her husband and his kinsmen negotiated its terms. Diplomats recorded the progress. Her own honest reaction does not survive. We do not know whether she wanted release from Giovanni. We do not know whether she feared what would follow. We do not know whether she privately resisted, agreed, or simply understood that resistance was useless. What we do know is that the legal argument required a claim about her body. The commission concluded that Giovanni had never consummated the marriage and that Lucrezia remained a virgin. Reports indicate that she was willing to swear to that status. The finding would restore her eligibility for another dynastic match. Here, the popular version of the story becomes more vivid than the evidence. Many later biographies describe a physical examination of Lucrezia. Such examinations did occur in some medieval and early modern marital cases, so the possibility cannot be dismissed. But the accessible contemporary accounts establish the verdict, not the exact procedure. They do not securely identify an examining room, attendants, doctors, matrons, or a recorded inspection. The responsible conclusion is simple. The commission declared her a virgin. The method remains uncertain. That uncertainty matters because later storytellers filled the silence with scenes designed to shock. They imagined men around a bed, forced demonstrations before cardinals, bloodied sheets, and clinical proof recorded in detail. None of those images should be treated as established fact. The real event needed no invention. A 17-year-old woman's intimate status was being defined by a court controlled by her father. The conclusion would decide which dynasty received her next. Whether an examination occurred or not, Lucrezia's body had already become evidence because the legal case could not function without a public claim about it. Meanwhile, pressure on Giovanni intensified. Cardinal Ascanio Sforza, the kinsman who had helped arrange the marriage, now helped persuade him to abandon it. Ludovico Sforza also withdrew meaningful support. Giovanni faced the Pope, the church tribunal, and his own family network without a secure ally. At last, he signed. The written declaration stated that he had never consummated the marriage and that he was impotent. Giovanni later said he had written it in obedience to Ludovico and Ascanio. His earlier statement had claimed the opposite. Which version was true cannot be proved with certainty. That was no longer the point. Power had produced the statement it required. Money also formed part of the settlement. Accounts disagree over the final handling of Lucrezia's 31,000 ducat dowry. Some retellings say Giovanni retained it. Other wording suggests he surrendered it. The exact arrangement remains disputed, but the larger structure is clear. Wealth, territory, reputation, and legal obedience were negotiated together. Each side received something. Alexander regained control of his daughter's marriage. The Sforza leadership avoided a direct rupture with the Pope. Giovanni escaped immediate political danger, though at the price of lasting humiliation. Lucrezia received legal freedom without receiving control. On 20th of December 1497, the marriage was formally annulled. The public finding announced that the union had not been consummated and that Lucrezia remained a virgin. The Vatican had not made her a virgin again. It had declared that she had never ceased to be one. That distinction gave the ruling its legal force. It also made the humiliation nearly impossible to contain. A private marriage had been turned inside out before the courts of Italy. Giovanni was marked as incapable. Lucrezia was marked as examinable, transferable, and available. The verdict solved the Borgia's immediate problem, but it opened a darker one. Once powerful men had made Lucrezia's sexual reputation public property, they could no longer control what the public did with it. Within months, the political purpose of the annulment became visible. Lucrezia was married again, this time into the royal network of Naples. The new husband was a young Neapolitan prince whose family could offer the Borgias influence the Sforzas no longer provided. The speed of the new arrangement exposed the logic behind the old marriage's destruction. She had not been released into independence. She had been cleared for reassignment. Alexander gained a new alliance. Giovanni returned to Pesaro, carrying the accusation of impotence. Ascanio and Ludovico preserved their relationship with the Pope by sacrificing their kinsman's resistance. The church court had protected the political needs of the family that controlled it. Lucrezia carried the spectacle. Her second marriage also became vulnerable when Borgia's strategy shifted. As relations with Naples worsened and her brother Cesare Borgia, then still a cardinal, soon to become the family's military prince, pursued new alliances, Lucrezia's husband became an obstacle. He was attacked in 1500 and later killed by men associated with Cesare. Again, Lucrezia's private life moved according to the needs of a dynasty. Again, the men around her controlled the outcome. She was eventually married a third time to the heir of Ferrara. This match took her away from Rome and into one of Italy's most sophisticated courts. There, the woman later remembered as a poisonous seductress, developed a very different reputation. She became Duchess of Ferrara. She managed correspondence, patronage, household responsibilities, and periods of government when her husband was absent. Poets and artists gathered around the court. Administrative records reveal not a theatrical monster, but a noble woman, performing the political and cultural work expected of her rank. That does not turn her into a modern heroine. The surviving evidence is too uneven for that. Lucrezia benefited from privilege, belonged to a ruthless dynasty, and lived inside a system that exploited others as well as herself. But the contrast is essential. The young woman who had been traded into marriage at 13, declared a virgin at 17, and widowed through political violence, became more capable and respected once she gained distance from the papal court. The annulment had taught her something brutal about power. A ceremony could proclaim permanence while diplomacy prepared betrayal. A legal court could speak the language of truth while serving a political result. A woman's reputation could be destroyed by accusations made between men, and survival did not erase the damage. Giovanni's retaliatory claim continued circulating. The contradiction between the virginity verdict and later rumors surrounding an unidentified child in Rome gave enemies more material. Hostile observers treated every gap in the record as permission to invent. The Borgias had used Lucrezia's reputation as a legal instrument. Their enemies would use it as a weapon. The legend of Lucrezia Borgia did not grow because the evidence against her was overwhelming. It grew because the story was useful. Giovanni's incest accusation redirected attention away from his coerced confession. Instead of asking why a husband had reversed his testimony under family pressure, audiences could stare at the Pope's daughter and imagine depravity. Borgia enemies benefited even more. Alexander VI was already accused of corruption, nepotism, and ruthless ambition, portraying his family as sexually monstrous, transformed political hostility into moral horror. Lucrezia became the perfect symbol because her own voice was largely absent from the record. Rivals whispered that she had relationships with her father or brothers. Later stories made her pregnant during the annulment, linked her to the mysterious child called the Infans Romanus, and accused her of poisonings and murders. The child's parentage remains unresolved, and contradictory papal documents do not name Lucrezia as the mother. No credible evidence proves the incest claims. But rumor did not need proof, it needed repetition. Hostile chroniclers, court poets, and later historians expanded the accusations. Centuries afterward, stage drama and opera transformed Lucrezia into a fatal woman surrounded by poison, forbidden desire, and elegant cruelty. The theatrical version was easier to remember than the legal documents. It was also more comfortable. A wicked woman makes a simple story. A political system that turned daughters into treaties is harder to confront. A seductress can be blamed. A teenager used by her father, husband, cardinals, and dynasties forces us to look at how respectable institutions created the scandal they later condemned. Even the most famous modern image, the witnessed wedding bed, performs that same trick. It invents a lurid spectacle and hides the documented mechanism. The true horror was not that a crowd watched Lucrezia's marriage begin. It was that powerful men could later announce what had or had not happened in private, make the ruling serve their alliances, and leave her to carry the shame. History remembered the rumor, because rumor had a villain. The documents revealed a system. So how did Pope Alexander VI turn his daughter's private marital status into political evidence? He controlled every level of the trap. As Lucrezia's father, he arranged the marriage. As Pope, he ruled the institution capable of judging it. As a temporal prince, he benefited from replacing one alliance with another. Cardinals supplied the legal process. Sforza leaders pressured Giovanni to surrender. A declaration of non-consummation gave political desire the appearance of lawful necessity. And why did Lucrezia carry the scandal? Because the men left records of decisions, negotiations, and accusations. Lucrezia left almost no surviving account of what she wanted. Into that silence, enemies placed incest, dramatists placed poison, modern retellings placed witnesses around a bed. The myths became louder than the verdict itself. Yet the verdict tells us enough. At 13, she was married to strengthen a dynasty. At 17, she was declared untouched, so the dynasty could use her again. Her husband lost his honor. Her father gained an alliance. The church preserved the language of legality. Lucrezia inherited the legend. The Vatican wedding had been filled with music, gold, and witnesses. 4 years later, the same marriage was reduced to parchment and declared unfinished. The palace remembered the celebration. The courts remembered the alliance. But history remembered the girl as the scandal, because power had already taught the world to treat her body as evidence.